Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game review, Liverpool 2, Everton 0 in the Merseyside derby on Sunday afternoon. I was going to say a defeat that takes Everton into the relegation zone, but it doesn't because we were in the relegation zone prior to this game anyway because of Burnley's win earlier on in the day. It's all just become a reality, hasn't it, really? I think over the last 48 hours or so. I mean, it's felt very, very real for the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, maybe even 2, 3 months or so. But it's not only till you actually see, Everton in the relegation zone in the bottom three after 31 games played and, in the middle of April, coming towards the end of April and coming ultimately towards the back end of the season, the last couple of weeks of the season, and you look and you think, shit, we are in deep, deep, deep trouble here. Leeds managed to get themselves a point last night away to Crystal Palace, which, again, was a decent result for them. Burnley are on a run of form at the moment where they've won a couple of games on the bounce, 2 games on the bounce, which, Everton haven't done since the first few weeks of the season. So even going into this Merseyside derby before the ball had even been kicked and before, any football had been played, this game, had a lot of importance on it. And I said that on Friday. I said that this is, the most important Merseyside derby in a long, long time, because my nerves going into this game weren't necessarily because we were playing Liverpool at Anfield or because it was a derby or because they're fighting for the league title or because they're in really, really good form at the moment. My nerves were that it's just another game of football, and another game of football that realistically Everton couldn't have afforded to lose. And although I think the performance was much better than what a lot of us expected, a little bit like the game against Manchester City, ultimately we've still come away with absolutely nothing. And at this point in the season, given the situation that we're in, we can't afford to be bypassing many more games and having that same conversation. Even if we've played well, we can't afford to be sitting here saying we've come away with absolutely nothing. And I've got the same amount of nerves now, looking forward and thinking forward to Sunday against Chelsea as I had going into the Merseyside derby. And, typically a derby gives you more nerves and you're more worried and you're more anxious and all of that sort of stuff. But at the moment, I feel like I did, on Sunday leading up to that Merseyside derby. I feel like that every time we play, because every game is just so important. We've got, 6 cup finals left, starting on Sunday with Chelsea, and we absolutely can't afford to lose that game. And as I said, this was a Merseyside derby we were going into, when nobody had given us a chance, really. We were the team that were fighting relegation, the team in really bad form. Our away form is absolutely horrendous this season. We don't need to sit here and remind ourselves of that. Liverpool are absolutely flying, whether it be away from home or at home. They've got a manager that the entire club loves, including the fans, a group of players that the fans love, and that obviously a world-class bunch, fighting for not only the league title but the Champions League and an FA Cup final. Already won the Carabao Cup. This was set up for Liverpool to absolutely steamroll Everton and for it to be an absolute embarrassment, and that's not what it was, and that makes this result and ultimately this live stream and this conversation a little bit more difficult to have, I suppose. And I suppose that's why the entire Liverpool fan base has taken a lot more joy out of this win than what they would have if it would have been 5, 6, 7-0, because I think in those circumstances they looked at us and gone, we beat them, but we were expected to beat them, and we beat them in the way in which we expected, whereas now I think a lot of them are looking at it and thinking, actually, they won't admit it to themselves, but actually, they made it really, really hard for themselves, for us, for a good hour of that game, and they were lucky to not get we were lucky that we didn't give away a penalty, and we were lucky to still have 11 men on the pitch at half time, and this, that, and the other. And I think that's why a lot of Liverpool fans have put this weird barrier up of lashing all sorts of mad stuff on social media and in our comments. I mean, our instant match reaction, the amount of dislikes our instant match reaction got was hilarious, and the comments on it, because a lot of them obviously felt like they expected a different type of game of football. And I said this yesterday and I'll say it again today, Everton's performance for the first hour of that game was absolutely spot on. I don't give a shit if we had 16% possession. I don't give a shit if Alan only made one completed pass. I don't give a shit if it was embarrassing to watch and look at how much possession Liverpool had. The reality of the situation is any Anybody sitting there that thinks Everton were a disgrace for the way in which we played in that first hour on Sunday shouldn't watch football. Football isn't for you. Go and watch golf. Go and watch rugby. Go and watch cricket. Go and watch something else, because football isn't for you. And anybody that is sitting there annoyed at the fact that Everton didn't provide them with entertainment in that first hour and we didn't decide to go toe-to-toe with them for their entertainment, then as I've said before, and I'll say it again, if you want entertainment, go and watch fucking Disney. Go and watch Marvel. Go and watch Nat Geographic or, Abandoned Engineering or whatever, which is a belter program. Go and watch one of them. That'll provide you with entertainment. Football isn't about providing people with entertainment. It's about doing what you can to get a result. And okay, ultimately we didn't get a result on Sunday, and I understand that and I appreciate that. And I know that given we didn't get a result, the way in which we performed in that first hour meant very, very little. But the way in which Frank Lampard set up for me on Sunday was exactly the way he needed to set up to give us the best chance of getting a result. And for, as I said, a good, certainly that first 45 minutes, but even the first 20 odd minutes of the second half, Liverpool couldn't break through us. They had all of the ball, which is what we were to expect, and they had a couple of half chances here and there, but we were frustrating them. We were limiting them to very, very minimal opportunities. Every time they got near the box, we got rid of it. Every time they tried to take a shot, we limited them to wild shots from 30 odd yards, which ended up going over, or Jordan Pickford was able to deal with comfortably. We time wasted, which some people didn't like. Bit mad considering every Premier League goalkeeper to ever have existed has time wasted. There's certain goalkeepers who make a living out of doing it. Kasper Schmeichel was doing it from the 3rd minute the other day on Wednesday against Everton, when we played Leicester. Ben Foster does it every single week, but it's alright for them. But as soon as Jordan Pickford does it, get it on the back page of every newspaper. Oh my God, Everton time wasted. The reality of the situation was, if Everton had have gone toe-to-toe with Liverpool, we'd have been about 8-0 down in the opening 15 minutes. Because word to all of the newspapers and all of the journalists and all of the press and all of these so-called football fans who don't understand the way in which Everton set up, Liverpool are one of, if not the best team in the world at the moment. They're absolutely flying. They're in the semi-final of a Champions League. They're going toe-to-toe with another fantastic team for the league title. They've already won a trophy this season. They're brilliant. And again, word to all of you journalists and super football fans, even though you're only a football fan because you like playing FIFA and watching Mark Goldbridge, word to all of you people, Everton in a relegation battle. And that means, and the reason we're in that relegation battle is because our players aren't very good. The reason Liverpool are fighting for every trophy there is to win is because their players are very good. So if we'd have gone toe-to-toe with them and tried to outplay them, we'd have been 5-6-0 down by the opening 10 or 15 minutes. And that's what you might have wanted to see. But as an Evertonian, that isn't what we want to see. So what we did was set up to avoid that happening. And it might have been boring, and we mightn't have had any possession, and we mightn't have, we mightn't have had the ball, but we nullified Liverpool for an hour. And we had chances. We had opportunities. We had breaks. Abdoulaye Doucouré had a shot in the first half, which he just puts wide. Anthony Gordon had one in the second half. We obviously had the penalty situation, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We had a couple of opportunities to break. Damari Gray, Anthony Gordon had a couple himself to break and to create chances, and we just didn't have that quality. And ultimately, we lost this game on Sunday through, I think, a lack of quality in the final third, through a couple of instances of lack of concentration and lapses of concentration defensively, i.e. Mason Holgate standing 35 miles away from his defensive line, and also complete bias refereeing, and I don't give a shit. It's been 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever it's been, and I know there'll be a load of Liverpool fans that'll jump in on this and say, you still going on, and you know what, as I said in the instant match reaction, and I'll say it again, we could have gotten a penalty on Sunday, scored the penalty. Mane could have been sent off, as he should have rightly been sent off for putting his hand into two of our players' faces, and we still could have lost that game. I had this conversation today with one of the lads in work at the burger van at dinner time. He said, yeah, but that wouldn't have stopped you conceding 2 goals. I said to him, yeah, and we might still have conceded 2 goals. We might have gone on and conceded 4 goals and still lost the game, and I'd be sitting here saying, you know what, we've lost there to a fantastic team, as much as it kills me to say it, and I hate them, a fantastic team, but at least we had a fair go with it. We got a penalty, we got at them, we made it hard for them in the first hour. But who's to sit here and say that Everton, let's say we got the penalty and scored it, because we've got a pretty decent record at scoring penalties, which I think is fair to say. Who's to say that Everton sitting 11 men behind the ball against a 10-men Liverpool team when being 1-0 up weren't going to win that game? And even if we weren't going to win that game ultimately becomes 10 times harder for Liverpool to score too. And Liverpool have got the quality, and as I said, I think another thing that changed the game was their substitutions. Klopp bringing on Diaz, who's just another level, which again is just another bullet into the heart of Evertonians, isn't it, considering how heavily we were linked with him in the summer. And that changed the game as well. But had we have been 1-0 up at half time and Liverpool being down to 10 men, it could have been a completely different outcome. And that's why I sit here and I'm not going to let the referees get away with it. I'm not going to let the officials get away with it, because I think it's utter fucking nonsense. And I agree with absolutely everything Frank Lampard has said. I know the FA have tried to have a little go at Frank Lampard today. Ooh, apologise. You can't say that if it's at the other end, then they get it. He's absolutely spot on. If that's Mo Salah being taken down and you've got 50,000 Liverpool fans screaming and shouting, that penalty gets given 100%. There is no way you convince me otherwise. And every Liverpool fan who will come across this video will agree and will absolutely believe the same. If that's the other way round, it's given 100%. So I just again, it's situations like that really frustrate you, and it's the City one as well. A lot of these Liverpool fans make me laugh, because when Rodri's handball wasn't given and Man City come away with 3 points at Goodison Park not so long ago, they were all up in arms about why that wasn't given. That's the worst decision I've ever seen. Everton were robbed. Yet now it's never a penalty. It's never a penalty. Come on. If you don't understand football, that's fine. If you don't understand how the game is played and you're only watching it because your team are doing well at the moment, and when it goes downhill, which it will, because it goes downhill for everybody, look at Manchester United, when it goes downhill, you'll go back to not giving a fuck. If that's fine, but just admit that. Don't come out and act like you're the biggest football fan on the planet and then say that's not a penalty, when every conceivable human being on the planet can tell. If you know even an ounce about football, if you've ever played the game even once as a kid, you'll look at that and go, that's a penalty. But ultimately, we lost the game. And as I said, the two goals that we conceded were directly down to bad refereeing decisions. They were lapses of defensive concentration. And I think they were down to Liverpool being able to step it up a gear and Everton ultimately not being able to keep up with that gear. And that's nothing unusual. That's absolutely nothing, nothing we didn't expect. We were playing one of the best teams in the world, and we aren't one of the best teams in the world, evidently. So when one of the best teams in the world steps it up a gear, it's understandable that we couldn't deal with that. I suppose the most frustrating thing as an Everton fan, as I've witnessed, as I've thought about over the last 24, 48 hours, plastic bag, please tell me what I'm in denial about. Please tell me what I'm wrong about. I suppose one of the most frustrating things is you look at how we've just performed against probably the best team in the country. You look at how forward-thinking Anthony Gordon was. I mean, since Alexander-Arnold, whether you like him or not, he's an absolutely fantastic right back, absolutely fantastic footballer. And Anthony Gordon made him look absolute bang average for 90-plus minutes. Vitaly Mykolenko give Mohamed Salah a really, really difficult afternoon. Really, really. That's the third game on the bounce now. Vitaly Mykolenko has been very much faultless. He was fantastic. And you look at performances like that and you think we've just done that in a Merseyside derby against the most potent Liverpool team there's been in my lifetime, certainly, away from home, when we've got the away record that we've got. Why couldn't we have performed like that against Burnley 3 weeks ago? If we'd have performed like we did in that first hour against Burnley, and I know some people say, but you don't want to sit back and throw 11 men behind the ball against Burnley. You absolutely do. I think if you go back on the video I did when Frank Lampard first joined Everton, I think we done a live stream talking about how Frank Lampard gets Everton out of this situation or something along those lines. And I think one of the things I said was every away game, stick 11 men behind the ball. Don't care whether we're playing Liverpool, don't care whether we're playing Tottenham, don't care whether we're playing Burnley, don't care whether we're playing Southampton. Every away game, stick 11 men behind the ball. And in most of them, you will get at least a point. In some of them, you will get 3 points in. We could have got 3 points on Sunday. As I said, if the referee wasn't an absolute idiot and we'd have taken a couple of other chances, we'd have had chances, to win that game. Okay, you could say, well, Liverpool would have just stepped it on further, and they might have, and that's fine because they're one of the best teams in the world. That's fine. But teams like Burnley, Southampton, Crystal Palace, they haven't got the facilities to do what Liverpool can do. So imagine had we have performed in those games like we did on Sunday, I've got no doubt we'd have picked up at least 10 more points than what we've got now, and we wouldn't even be in this situation. So that is overriding for me. The most frustrating thing is you look at Sunday and you just think, if you can do it there against them lot, whether you like them or not, a wonderful team managed by I absolutely can't bear Jurgen Klopp, but he's a wonderful manager. Why can't you do it against the Burnley team who were absolutely dreadful at the time, and we were 2-1 up? We were 2-1 up. And that's where I look at Frank Lampard, and I've spoke about game management time and time again. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Frank Lampard done an awful lot wrong on Sunday. Again, as I said, I think tactically his setup was perfect. I think the mistakes that led to goals weren't really his fault, I suppose. He had his hands tied with the centre-back situation because Ben Godfrey picked up an injury beforehand. I think the management of Yerry Mina was sensible. I'd have made the third substitution, be it El Ghazi or Van der Beek or somebody like that, but he didn't. But I think one big criticism I'd have of Frank Lampard since he's come in is, for me, you've got loads of time to play nice football, to play attacking football, to play attractive football. Do that next season. Do that in the home games when we're playing teams that aren't particularly good and aren't going to come and threaten us. Every away game since Frank come in should have been like Sunday. 11 men behind the ball and just defend to get anything out the game. Because what we've ended up doing is trying to go toe-to-toe with teams like Tottenham, play a high line against teams like Tottenham, Crystal Palace, I know they were doing in the Cup, Burnley, and we've been beaten because those teams have either been better than we are or given more effort than we did in the Burnley sense. But if we'd have just stuck 11 men behind the ball when we went 2-1 up at Burnley, I firmly believe we'd have seen that game out, because I don't think they'd have had the quality to break us down. It took Liverpool an hour to break us down, and they are, it goes without saying, a much better team than Burnley are. So I suppose that's where the frustration at the minute comes from for me with this Everton team. But just looking at Sunday's game, I think there is a lot of positives to take from it, and as the title reads, we've got to take those positives from it. What we absolutely can't do now is do what we have been guilty of in previous years, and that's losing a Merseyside derby and just letting our heads drop and fall to bits. Ultimately, we've lost a game that everybody's expected us to lose on Sunday, and we've lost it in a manner that I don't think anybody really expected. And I know there's this weird agenda, as I said before, of, Everton never had a go, they never wanted to beat it was embarrassing, it was that. You don't understand football if you think any of that is true. You just don't. Football is about getting results. Football is about winning. Football is about doing whatever you can to get results. And what we needed to do on Sunday was exactly what we did. Throw 11 men behind the ball, defend, and try and hit them on the counter-attack. Now, obviously, we didn't get the result, and that's because of a couple of lapses in defensive concentration, because our players aren't good enough, and because Liverpool, at the end of the day, were just too good. And their options off the bench and their forward line and their ability to go at teams and break them down in those situations is there to see. And I think there's only really Manchester City who are similar in that sense. I think a lot of other teams wouldn't have broke Everton down on Sunday. I think most other Premier League teams wouldn't have broke Everton down on Sunday. So you've got to take the positives from it, and we've got to put it behind us now. We've got to put it behind us. It's done. It's over. We've lost. Again, I'm not even that arsed that we've lost to Liverpool, or we've lost to, in a Merseyside derby, or we've lost, and I don't care. We've lost to the team that may well go and win the quadruple this season. Big woohoo. Put it behind us and move on. Go and focus on Sunday now. For me, we can win on Sunday. Chelsea aren't in very good form. They beat West Ham last time out, of course, with a very late goal, but they'd lost 3 on the bounce before that. Chelsea are a very beatable team. We'll have to be at the races, and they'll have to have an off day, but they're a very beatable team. Nobody knows Chelsea Football Club more than Frank Lampard does. They're going through their fair share of shite at the moment. They're playing tonight, I believe. They're not playing tonight. They were knocked out the Champions League. City are playing tonight. But yeah, and then we've got some crucial games. Your Watfords, your Brentfords, your Leicesters, games that we just absolutely can't afford to be losing. But Sunday for me was one that I think we can take a lot of positives from. We can take a lot of confidence from. I think defensively we were solid. Okay, we had the passing wasn't great, and when we were breaking on the attack, we didn't have that little bit of quality. And I think that's ultimately what the difference was between us going ahead and not going and it's staying at 0-0. When we had those counter attacks, we just didn't have the quality to ultimately to make that difference. And last season at Anfield we had James Rodriguez, who coincidentally I've just read a rumour is to state that he wants to leave Dubai now and go back to Europe, which is interesting. But we haven't got James Rodriguez now. So when we were breaking on the counter attack on Sunday, Abdoulaye Doucouré were thought had his best game in an Everton shirt in a while, but again drags a shot wide that he really should get on target. Anthony Gordon, gets into a position and throws himself on the floor, which look, again he dived in that sense, the Naby Keita sense. He dived. Now I don't agree with all of this. Oh, and this is another thing I've seen a load of. Well, if Anthony Gordon wouldn't dive, then we would have got a penalty, so it's his fault for diving. Or, you just didn't deserve a penalty because Anthony Gordon dived. He dived, and he got booked for it. He dived, and he got punished for it. He got a yellow card. Now, I was listening to Ali McCoist on TalkSport the following day, or the same day, Sunday or Monday. I can't remember when it was. It was either Sunday or yesterday. I think it was Sunday night. And he said on TalkSport, I get that. He dived, he got booked for it. He said the referee's job is to take every incident in isolation. Every individual incident in isolation. Not to take an incident and go, well, I'm going to make a decision based off what I seen 10 minutes ago. You make your decision on what happened 10 minutes ago when it happens, and you do what you do, like the referee did, and he booked Anthony Gordon, and I've got no big problem with that, because he threw himself on the floor far too easily, and when you look back on it, he probably should have stayed on his feet, because he'd have had the good opportunity to bend the shot in with his right foot. But to try and defend Stuart Atwell by saying, well, he doesn't give the penalty because of what happened earlier on in the game is fucking nonsense for me. Nonsense. And for VAR to not look at it, or to not give it, let's be honest, he didn't look at it, to not look at it because of what happened earlier on in the game is nonsense. When he dived once, Anthony Gordon, he might have dived earlier on in the middle of the park, but in a compromising position, he dived once. The push in the back from Alexander-Arnold is exactly that, and was a yellow card, potentially even a red card. It would have been a red card later on in the game when he got booked. And the penalty is the clearest penalty you will see. And as I said, I've not spoke to anybody, Liverpool fan, Everton fan, Chelsea fan, somebody in the media, anybody that understands football, whether you're red, blue, or anything else, will tell you that's a penalty. I've spoke to Liverpool fans, some of my close friends, as I said, some people today who've said, yeah, it was absolutely a penalty. Anybody telling you it isn't a penalty simply has not got a clue about football. It's as simple as that. They haven't got a clue. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Evertonian. If it was the other way around, I'd say, okay, now we got away with one there. But if it was the other way around, it would have been given. We all know it would have been. Anyway, before we get into all of that, big thanks to everybody for watching, by the way. If you are watching and you're enjoying, please hit that like button. Only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you could get the likes up, that'd be great, because I've got a feeling there's going to be a lot of Liverpool fans sitting around this video who just dislike it for the sake of disliking it, because that seems to be what they did with the instant match reaction. Yeah, so if we could hit the like button, that'd be great. But as I said, we started the game, obviously. Frank Lampard releases the team. No Yerry Mina in there. The original team was obviously Jordan Pickford, Vitaly Mykolenko at left back, Seamus Coleman at right back, Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate as the centre backs. We had Abdoulaye Doucouré and Alan in the holding areas, with Alex Iwobi in there as well, and then obviously a front three of Anthony Gordon, Richarlison and Damari Gray. Now obviously we found out shortly after that Ben Godfrey had pulled up and underwent some sort of injury in the warm-up, so he was replaced with Michael Keane. And I looked at the team and I thought, the first thing I thought was I'm not confident with Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate as a centre-back pairing. again, I seen the Yerry Mina situation, and I wasn't too frustrated that Yerry Mina wasn't starting. He played on Thursday. He didn't have his greatest game on Thursday, to be fair. And obviously he wants, the Frank Lampard wants to manage him for the upcoming games. I'm sure he'll start on Sunday against Chelsea. So I didn't have a big issue with that. I had a bit of an issue with him not being on the bench, because I just think even, it's not like we've travelled halfway across the world to play this game, and leaving Yerry Mina at home is more beneficial. We've literally travelled, across the park to play the game. So not having him on the bench, I thought, was a little bit frustrating, especially in the event that one of our centre-halves pulls up in the warm-up with an injury, which obviously ended up happening. So as soon as I realised it was going to be Michael Keane and Mason Holgate as the centre-back pairing, again, my heart dropped, because we witnessed that against Tottenham, and we know how that went. And we've witnessed Michael Keane and Mason Holgate as a centre-back pairing on a number of occasions recently, and they just can't seem to perform together. I think Michael Keane plays a million times better when he's got Yerry Mina next to him, and I think that's because he knows he's not the leader then. He's the secondary centre-half, so the pressure isn't on him. And I genuinely just think Mason is not good enough. I just think Mason isn't good enough. No problem with Vitaly Mykolenko at left back. As I said, the two previous games, Leicester and Manchester United, I think he was the best player on the pitch in an Everton shirt, certainly up there. Seamus Coleman, I was a little bit worried about because of the pace of Liverpool's attack, because of the quality of Liverpool's attack, and because of the fact that Seamus had played on Thursday. But it has to be said, I think Seamus Coleman was good at the weekend. I don't think he was at fault for much. I think he dealt well with Liverpool's attack. I think he managed them well. He defended them well. I think the setup and the system suited them, and I think Vitaly Mykolenko was absolutely fabulous again. As I said, he didn't allow Mo Salah a minute space. Every time the ball fell to Mohamed Salah, he was straight on him. He didn't give him any space. He didn't give him any room to get round him. He was straight into him, which I thought was good. Midfield, I had no problem with. Abdoulaye Doucouré coming back in for, obviously, Fabien Delph. I didn't think Fabien Delph was particularly great against Leicester, so I had no issue with that. Alan in there, of course, and then the front three was as to be expected, really, with Iwobi in there as well. As I said, from the off, I think you could see the system and the style that Everton were going with. And I was happy with that. I was absolutely happy with that. I knew it would be a game that we would all sort of heart or arse in our heart or heart in our arse, whatever the saying is, heart in your mouth, because it was always going to be a game where Liverpool had the majority of the possession. And our tactic, I think, was very similar to what it was against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which is, you might say, isn't unusual, but it is a little bit unusual because Frank Lampard didn't manage that game. Rafa Benitez managed that game, so this is the first time we've seen Frank Lampard adopt that style of sitting 11 men behind the ball, and using the pace and I suppose the ability of Anthony Gordon and Damari Gray in the counter-attack when we get opportunities, along with Richarlison, but for the most part, just focusing on defending and sort of absorbing everything that Liverpool put at us. And I thought Anthony Gordon in that first half was absolutely fabulous, by the way. At best player on the pitch in that first half by a mile. Argument for him to be the best player on the pitch for the entire game. And I know he's the media's new target boy, isn't he? He's the media's new player to look at every time he gets fouled. Now it'll be, he's dived, he's threw himself on the floor. And does he go down a little bit easy? Yes, he does. Yes, he does, and his dive in the first half wasn't great, and it's not going to paint him in a great light, and it's going to do a disservice for how good of a footballer he was, because I actually thought during the game, as I said, potentially even for the entire game, but certainly that first half, he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile. He absolutely legged Trent Alexander-Arnold everywhere, and as I said before, Trent Alexander-Arnold is a fabulous, fabulous fullback. He legged them everywhere. And he was a constant threat. And I think to have a lad who is 21 years old, 22 years old, and in a game like that, a Merseyside derby, which means so much. Every game means so much at the moment for Everton, but a Merseyside derby, which means so much. And you're defending, and you know that when you get a counter-attack, you need to have somebody that's going to cause the opposition a problem. I think Anthony Gordon was doing that. He was causing Liverpool an issue. I think he was making the Liverpool defence think, do you know what? We've got something to deal with here, rather than it just being defend, and then when we get a counter attack, Liverpool are thinking, we'll win this back and we'll get it back in. I think every time Anthony Gordon got that ball and got the better of Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think there was genuine worry and fear amongst those Liverpool players. Demarai Gray, I think it was the same for Demarai Gray in the opening 20-25 minutes. He quietened down very, very quickly, certainly when that second half began, whereas Anthony Gordon was at it for the entirety of the game. But Demarai Gray for the opening 20-odd minutes as well, when he got the ball and he was running at Liverpool, I think, he was causing a couple of issues. And, as I said, I had no issue with the setup. I had no issue with the style. I had no issue with the tactics whatsoever. I think he was spot on by Frank Lampard, absolutely spot on, and I really struggle to understand, and listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. There's 107 people watching here. If you're watching live, please do get your thoughts in the live comments. If you are enjoying, please hit the like button, by the way, subscribe if you're new. But I'm really, really interested to hear, not from the Reds in the comments, if there's Reds watching, sound, but I'm interested to hear from the Evertonians. Did anybody have a problem with the way we played in that opening hour on Sunday? Did anybody have an issue with it? Do we not all understand where we are compared to where they are, and the fact that we can't go toe-to-toe with them? I thought we defended really, really well. As I said, Vitaly Mykolenko, I thought was absolutely outstanding. He didn't give Mohamed Salah a minute's space. He didn't give him a minute to breathe. He didn't give him a minute to move. I think Seamus Coleman done really, really well. The two centre-halves stuck a deep line, and everything that come in, they dealt with. Liverpool had a couple of half chances. Mo Salah had one, I think, which he fired over. I think Thiago might have had a shot which went out as well. They had a couple of opportunities, as you would expect, given the amount of possession and the amount of ball they had. But considering the amount of possession they had, I think we actually had the better chances in the first half. We actually had the higher XG in the first half, believe it or not. And it was because of those opportunities where we were breaking on the counter-attack. As I said, Abdoulaye Doucouré has one where he's fed in and his touch just takes him a little bit too wide, and his shot goes out wide. We had another one, I think Demarai Gray fires one just over the bar. Anthony Gordon had a couple of chances where he got into a good area and we just couldn't manifest it. So we got the ball into some good positions, and we done that through the counter-attack, whilst frustrating Liverpool and whilst obviously stopping them from creating anything of any sort of note up the other end. And I think that's where the game got a little bit, I don't want to say feisty, because I think the first bit of feistiness was right at the end of the half, when incidentally Stuart Atwell completely lost the game, and as I said, should have sent Sadio Mane off and didn't. But that come from Richarlison going down ultimately. Now Richarlison went down a couple of times during the game. As I said, I've mentioned the dive from Anthony Gordon. It's a dive. The one where he goes past Naby Keita, there's a tad bit of contact. He gets touched. And we've seen certain other players, Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, win penalties from those areas. And the pundits are all saying, well, it's a foul because he's touched them. But it's interesting when it's Anthony Gordon, it's a dive. But listen, he goes down too easily. He makes a meal of it. He's trying to buy a penalty. I had no issue with the referee cautioning him for that because it was silly. Every other time Anthony Gordon went down, he was kicked. And I think Stuart Atwell completely shit himself on Sunday. He shit himself because of the Anfield crowd, and he shit himself because of the Anthony Gordon dive. Now, really what he should have done, as Ali McCoy's quite rightly said, was take every incident in isolation, and that's what VAR should have done as well. But actually what he did, every time Anthony Gordon went down, he shit himself at the reaction that the crowd would give if he'd give a decision. If he was to give a penalty or a free kick, he thought, shit, I best not give anything here because he dived earlier on, and these are gonna get feisty if so. He absolutely shit himself, and I'm not gonna sit here and have the corruption talk or it's fixing this, that, and the other, because we had a lot of that on Sunday in the instant match reaction, and I still do firmly believe that for VAR to not take a serious look at that and give a penalty is nothing short of blatant corruption. The same reason as to why they didn't give the penalty against Manchester City. There's absolutely nothing that any of those knobheads at PGMOL or whatever it's called can say. There's nothing that any of them can say to tell me that either of those decisions aren't penalties. And they know that themselves. They know that. So why weren't they given? Why weren't they given? It's you can't tell me that two decisions that would have ultimately had an effect on the title race and weren't given are just, it's coincidental nonsense, absolute nonsense. But as I said, Everton were playing the game perfectly. For me, was Jordan Pickford time wasting? Absolutely. As I said, Kasper Schmeichel does it every week. Ben Foster does it every week. Alisson Becker would be doing it if he was in this situation. Ultimately, that's what goalkeepers do, they time waste. Richarlison went down a couple of times. I genuinely don't think there was a single time he went down where he wasn't hurt. Did he go down too easy on a couple of occasions? Probably. But the time that he actually went down and Jamie Carragher screamed, "Get up," which was massively embarrassing, he'd actually rolled his ankle. And Jamie Carragher still to this day hasn't come out and said any sort of apology or any form of statement for screaming "get up" when a player's clearly rolled his ankle. Nobody was saying it was a foul. Nobody was saying we should have got a free kick. But I don't know if Jamie Carragher's ever played football, by the way. But when you're running at such a speed and your ankle twists, put it this way, when you're walking at a speed and your ankle twists, it's fucking painful. When you're running at a speed and your ankle twists, you know what? It's going to hurt. It's absolutely going to hurt. And Richarlison going down and screaming is a natural reaction to when you roll your ankle, when you're running that fast. And staying lying down for a couple of minutes, that's a natural reaction as well. Because at that point in time, you genuinely do think that you've done something serious to your ankle. What do you want him to do? Get straight back up and fucking carry on running, Jamie? You're an absolute fucking idiot, mate. You're an absolute fucking idiot. And I had some people commenting on the instant match reaction saying, what's the commentary got to do with it? What's the commentary got to do with you losing or you being... Firstly, Everton aren't in this situation because of referees. Let me get that one out the way, because that was another load of nonsense I heard all Sunday night. I suppose you're only going to get relegated because of referees. No. The players are an absolute bunch of shithouses and have let us down week in, week out for years, and that's the situation that we're in. The board are absolute fucking clowns, and this club has been ran like a circus for far too long. The management team prior to this one were fucking abysmal, the worst manager we've ever had in the history of the football club. The previous one got off. We're not in this situation because of referees or because of us losing a game on Sunday. They don't help. Of course they don't help. But we're not in this situation because of that. But when you watch a game of football and you pay £80, £90 a month for a television subscription, and this isn't even at Liverpool, by the way. I'm just talking genuinely. You pay £80, £90 a month for the television subscription and you log on and you go to watch your team and the two commentators commenting on your team do nothing but lick the arse of the opposition team and basically have a go at every single one of your players, but don't do it for the opposition team as well. I don't know why anybody would pay the money to listen to them knobheads. I really, really don't. I really, really don't. I've not paid to watch the game on LFC Fan TV. If I'd have paid to watch it on LFC Fan TV or LFC TV, whatever, I'd go, do you know what? It's going to be biased. It's Liverpool's official channel. If I'd have paid and selected the option to have Liverpool biased commentary, fine. But I didn't. People pay to watch what is blatant bias in the commentary. And Liverpool fans will go, I don't see the issue, it's just commentary, what are you bothered about? But it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing from Sky Sports. It's fucking embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's sickening to hear. And I'd say the same if we were playing Manchester City and they had Vincent Kompany and fucking, I don't know, Mario Balotelli comment or two Manchester City ex-players or fans commentating on the game, and I'd say the same if it was that situation. I'd say the same if we were playing Tottenham and they had Glenn Hoddle on there screaming and shouting about Tottenham. Have a ex-Liverpool playing on there, have Carragher on there, that's fine. Stick Duncan Ferguson next to him and let him have the argument with an Everton fan who's going to sit there and back that Everton Football Club. And yes, that's got nothing to do with the game of football or what happened in the game of football, but to scream get up at a player who's rolled his ankle, it's embarrassing. Jamie Carragher's embarrassed himself there, and that's why he hasn't faced it, by the way. That's why he hasn't addressed it. That's why he's ignored it, because he'll have watched that back or he'll have been told about that and he'll have thought, fucking hell, I have half made a tit of myself there, because he absolutely has. He's made a tit of himself, and that's why he won't acknowledge it. I put a reply under his tweet the other day and it had 700 likes, and I know for a fucking fact he liked it. I know for a fact he liked it because he was replying to other tweets, and no other tweet had anywhere near as much traction as my one did. So I know for a fucking fact he's seen it. but he's embarrassed. He's absolutely embarrassed with himself, and so he fucking should be as well. So he should be. Anyway, I digress. That had nothing to do with the game. Yeah, as I said, we were managing the first half, managing it well. You know, moving the ball, dealing with what Liverpool had to take at us, and as I said, moving it forward. And you know, ultimately, you know, getting it on the counter attack and trying to create chances and trying to find space for ourselves and just trying to mould something out of anything. And you know, it was always going to be difficult because A, we were against a very, very good team, and B, we were, you know, we were our game plan, I suppose, our tactic was to defend. And then obviously the incident happens towards the end of the second half. There's a bit of nonsense before, and there was a couple of harsh tackles thrown in and arms thrown and stuff, as you would expect, because Liverpool were getting frustrated. Their fans were getting frustrated, the players were getting frustrated, as you would do. Of course you would do. You know, because ultimately we were, you know, we spoiled the party for that opening 45 minutes. We didn't allow them to turn up and score 3-4. You know, everybody in that stadium expected Liverpool to be comfortably winning the game by 4 or 5-0 in the opening 25 minutes because of how bad Everton are and how great Liverpool are. But we spoiled it. We didn't allow that to happen. So they started to get frustrated. The fans were getting on their backs. The players were getting frustrated. And then there was the incident. Richarlison goes down. I think the referee doesn't stop it because he's a gutless shithouse, as I've previously mentioned. And then Abdoulaye Doucouré gives away a foul, a simple foul in the middle of the box. You know, just, I suppose, kicks, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Thiago or Fabinho or something like that. Kicks the player over. No need for anything other than it was a foul and probably a yellow card. And then obviously everybody, you know, crowds everybody. Liverpool players start to crowd the referee as they do. Everton players are crowding around there. And that was the point where Stuart Atwell completely lost the game for me. And when you watch it back and you look at it again and you look at the situation and you look at the referee and you just think, you'd be out of place refereeing 10-year-olds on the local grass footy pitch down the road from me, you. And yet you're refereeing Premier League footballers. Just baffles me. Absolutely, he's an embarrassment. He should look in the mirror and think, I'm embarrassed as well. Fucking embarrassment. But in this sort of kerfuffle, there's a little bit of, you know, there's a bit of argy-bargy and handbags. And listen, just because it's Liverpool, usually I wouldn't sit here and make a thingy of it because it happens in every game. There's handbags, there's players that are in each other's faces, this, that and the other. But one thing I thought was notable, a couple of things actually. Diego Jota throws an elbow in Seamus Coleman's face. I think it was a little bit earlier on and got away with it. Would it have gone to VAR had it have been the other way round? I think it would have, but there you go. And then during that kerfuffle, as I said, Sadio Mane raises his arms to Mason Holgate, which is visibly on camera, and pokes him in the eye, which, by the way, in rugby is a ban. Rugby, where they literally kick 10 shades of shit out of each other. If you raise your arm and go anywhere near somebody's eye, I'm led to believe it's a ban in rugby. And he does it to Alan as well, and shoves his hand in Alan's face. Now, there's no interpretation of that for me. It's not, was it a dangerous tackle? And Velox, it was in the eyes, mate. I've literally seen the pictures. His eye is closed over. It's there. His eye is, his finger is here, and Mason Holgate's eyes closed over. I've seen the pictures, mate. You literally, you can't try and swizz it any other way. I've literally seen the picture of it. It's like that. It's like that. You might have seen a different picture, that's fine, but it's like that. And I'm not saying he proper poked him in the eye, but it was close enough to the eye for it to have been deemed in the face, put it that way, because that's where your eyes are, they're in the face. And as I said, he goes for Alan. Now, for me, there's different rules in football that can be interpreted. Was a certain tackle done purposely? You know, was it accidental? Was it this? Was it that? Was it the other? Was it, you know, did he meet it? Was it in the flow of the game? Was it this, that, and the other? Was he looking at the ball? That rule cannot be misinterpreted. If you raise your hand to an opposition player's face, or above the neck, I think it is, because if you grab someone around the neck, it's the same. It's a sending off. It's as clear as that. It's written in the rule book. I don't know what rule it is, because I don't sit here and study the rule book, but it's written in the rule book. It's as simple as that. As simple as that. Now, Velox actually says, yeah, that was a foul, but the reason he didn't show red is because Holgate didn't make a fuss of it. That's really, really interesting, that. Really interesting, because on one hand, I said this to my dad on Monday, yesterday. I was watching the replay again in work, and I said, if Holgate and Allen go on the floor and roll around, then Mane gets sent off for me. Because they make that meal of that, forcing VAR to look at it, and then they've got nowhere to hide. They've got to give the decision. But also, on the other hand, I'm thinking, if they throw themselves on the floor and VAR still somehow manages to not give the decision, which may well have happened because it was at Anfield and they hate giving sending-offs at Anfield, then, again, the referee's looking at Holgate and Allen and thinking, these just throw themselves on the floor here. A little bit like the Gordon situation. But as I said, for me, that's just... It's like the penalty. It's inexplainable. It's inexplainable. You know, I had a comment on Sunday night saying, since when is raising your arm to an opposition player being a red card? Do these people watch fucking football? Do they understand football? They literally come from the Goldbridge FIFA generation of, if it's not happening on Ultimate Team, it doesn't exist. It's always been a sending off that if you raise your arm to somebody's face like that in an aggravated manner and you make contact with their face, it's a red card. It's as simple as that. And the game's done, and I know, but we're doing a review of the game, and I can't help but look at it and think, how is that not being given? He's done it to two different players. And you know what frustrates me even more? Two things. Atwell has seen it because he's yellow carded Mane. If he didn't yellow card Mane, I'd probably cut him a bit of slack, to be honest, because I'd say, do you know what? Everybody crowded everybody. He's trying to deal with a million different things. He hasn't seen it. But he's obviously seen it, or somebody's seen it, because he's gone and booked him. And Mane didn't do anything else. So he's booked him for that incident, which absolutely, categorically, literally tells you that he has acknowledged the situation. He knows that his arms were raised into at least one Everton player's face. Secondly, what's the fucking point in VAR? What is the point in VAR? Dominic, this is called a game review. Typically, when you review a game, you talk about the game. The game happened on Sunday. I was busy yesterday. We're here doing the game review. This is what we do on this channel. We review every game. So, sometimes it will be a couple of days later. Hence, here we are. What's the fucking point in VAR? Seriously. And this isn't even just an anti-Everton thing or Liverpool getting away with everything again. The same with the City situation. If VAR is there to just either A, ignore these situations, or B, do everything they can in their will to not give the decision that is the right decision, because that will affect something else, like a title race, for example, then what's the fucking point? Because it's not fair, is it? It's not fair, it's not even, it's not done, to make the right decisions. If anything, it just is another thing that is being used to console the outcomes of games. If anything, this was meant to stop all of this. There was meant to be no massive refereeing mistakes, no game-changing refereeing mistakes when VAR come in. There's now more of them. There's more of them than ever before. Why? There's no excuse. What comment did I skip, Paul? I haven't skipped your comment. Just pretend that didn't happen. What about Alan's hand in Jota's face? Didn't see it, to be honest, Paul. Didn't see it. Send me a picture of it on Twitter. I didn't see it, lad. I seen Jota's elbow in Seamus Coleman's face. So, there's three red cards to one, ultimately. Or two to one, sorry. No, 3-1, because Alexander-Arnold should have gone for his push on Gordon and then his tackle on Gordon in the second half. So, yeah, 3-1. But what's the point? What's the point? And it is this type of thing, and again, some people will say, but you aren't down there because of VAR or referees or whatever. But we could have got a point at City. We could have got maybe a point on Sunday, had we have been 1-0 up and Liverpool had been down to 10 men. We might have held out. We mightn't have, but we might have. We mightn't have scored the pen against City, but we'd have had the opportunity to get back in that game. And unfairly, we weren't given that opportunity. And this is what is just making me think more and more these days. When I said on Sunday, it's like WWE, it's a Vince McMahon special. I wasn't joking. I was being deadly serious. Deadly serious. And football at the minute is just making more and more, making me think, I can't be arsed. You know, Everton are already bad enough and already, you know, disappoint us week in, week out enough. So when we actually play well, our decisions like that go against us. It's just baffling. But anyway, the referee doesn't give anything. Of course he doesn't. We go to half time. And as I said, I thought it was a decent half for Everton. We worked hard. You know, Alan's interceptions, I think, were great. His clearances were great. I think the midfield in doing the defensive duties were very good. I think Alex Iwobi ran round. As I said, Anthony Gordon was a constant threat. I think it was the first half where Alexander-Arnold pushed them over. Again, blatant foul, blatant yellow card, not given by the referee. And yet we nullified Liverpool, and we ultimately we limited them to very few opportunities. We frustrated them. You could see that in that kerfuffle at the end of the half. That doesn't happen if they're 2 or 3-0 up, because they're not that interested in it. You know, when we managed the game, I think, really, really well in that first half. And as I said, we had a couple of opportunities ourselves that we should have done better with, but ultimately we had a lack of quality, so couldn't do better with. But I was relatively happy going into half-time. We go into half-time. Even Graham Souness says that it's a sending off for Mane, which literally, I don't know how any Liverpool fan can argue when Graham Souness, who's literally the biggest Liverpool fan on the planet, is coming out and saying, yeah, that was a sending off. That's literally, that's situation over with, isn't it? Vlog says, no disrespect, you can't be moaning about these red cards and you were robbed when Thiago had more passes. I don't care how many passes we had. I don't care if our team had one pass. We weren't there to pass the ball. It's like all of these people saying, Sky have put a video up today, Alan only had one completed pass all game, here it is. What's that about? Have they ever done that for any other player? They didn't mention his 6 clearances or his 5 interceptions or his blocks or his... I actually thought Alan done well. To be honest with you. Yes, he only had one completed pass, which isn't good enough. He wasn't great, don't get me wrong. But our game plan wasn't... We didn't have the ball to pass it. Can't pass the ball if you haven't got it. That doesn't mean we didn't play well and we didn't ultimately, complete the game plan to what it was. So, yeah, we go in at half-time. As I said, I think we've managed it well. Paul, I don't know what you want me to say, lad. Alan pushed Jota in the face. As I said, I've not seen it. So I'm not going to sit here and comment on something I haven't seen. You say, we don't want to talk about that, though. No, I won't talk about something I haven't seen. Just like I won't be talking about Coronation Street last night, because I didn't see it. Yeah, as I said, we go into half-time. I'm relatively pleased. There's obviously always that... that worry, I suppose, and that fear that, can we keep this up for another 45 minutes? Can we deal with that? And that was always going to be the big question. You know, we've done it really, really well for 45 minutes. We've frustrated them, we've limited them, we've had a couple of chances ourselves. Can we now do that for another 45? And ultimately, can we be able to cope and put up with Liverpool when they make them changes? Then, Jurgen Klopp was always going to make the changes, always going to bring on somebody like a Luis Diaz or, wheel out Origi, as he does every derby. Which, listen, I mean, there's not much I can say other than fair play, to be honest. I'd love if Everton had a player that literally only plays once or twice a season and scores in both of those games, and they're both against Liverpool. But, that was always the question. I think I said at half time on Twitter, are we going to be able to do this for another 45 minutes? It's going to be difficult because Liverpool were always going to step the foot on the pedal, because it was a massive game for them as well in the title race. They couldn't have afforded to drop points. And as I said, again, I think we started the second half well. Really, really well. Very much to how we ended the first half. We come out, we were defending, but we were doing it well. As I said, the back line was solid. Vitaly Mikalenko was brilliant. Seamus Coleman stood his ground. The 2 centre backs weren't causing any problem. I think Liverpool started to step their foot on the gas a little bit more. I think you started to see, as I said, more so probably 60 minutes onwards, that, they were starting to, I think, ramp it up a little bit. And again, as I said, it was always going to be whether Everton could deal with that. But we were still defending. We were still keeping them at bay. limiting them to very little. And we were still getting forward and having creating chances. I thought Anthony Gordon again started the second half brilliantly, causing problems, beating Alexander-Arnold for pace. Alexander-Arnold takes him out and gets a booking because he's absolutely beat him. He was getting up to the byline, sliding, whether it be a Iwobi in whose final touch just wasn't good enough, or Richarlison or Gray. I think Gray faded out the game in the second half. He had that one shot, which of course whistled past the post, which was unlucky. But other than that, I think he faded out. Again, obviously, Lampard made the decision. He brought Solomon Rondon on, brought Dele Alli on for Alan as well in the midfield. Again, I think Alan sort of starts to slow down a little bit. But let's talk about the penalty situation, because that could have completely changed the complexity of the game, couldn't it? Anthony Gordon manages to get the better side. Again, he completely flies past Alexander-Arnold, gets the better side of him, one-on-one, coming towards one-on-one with Alisson. Firstly, he has one of these chances, I think, after it, and the goal's gaping, he's got loads of space to put it, and he ends up putting it wide. But the penalty situation, gets one-on-one with Matip. Matip, not only does he push him with both hands, but he stands on his foot. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the video, it's absolutely obvious. Pummels and down. Stuart Atwell stops, puts his whistle to his mouth, waits as if he's being told something in his ear. I'm not saying he has, not saying he hasn't, but waits and then points to a goal kick. Now, as I said before, I'm not accepting this nonsense of, well, if Anthony Gordon wouldn't have dived in the first half, he'd have got that penalty. He wouldn't. He absolutely wouldn't. Anthony Gordon could have been on the pitch for 10 seconds and that situation happened and he wouldn't have got that penalty. Because as Frank Lampard quite rightly said, you don't get penalties in Anfield. It's as simple as that. If it's the other way around, it's a penalty. The way it is, you don't get penalties in Anfield. And even if that was to come into play, i.e. that if he wouldn't have dived earlier on in the game, he'd have got it. That's, again, nonsense, because you have to, as a referee, a Premier League referee, you have to take every situation in isolation. And what should have happened was Stuart Atwell, if he wasn't a massive shithouse, would have said, do you know what? The kid did dive earlier on in the game and I punished him for that. But I'm not really sure whether there was contact there, so I need to get that checked. And VAR should have gone, even if Atwell had said, no, not a penalty, VAR should have gone, hang on, let us just have a little double check at that one, because he does come across him and there's clearly contact made. Whether it's enough or not, let's double check it. And had VAR spent even a fraction of the time looking at the Anthony Gordon foul as to what they did when they were desperate to send Alan off a couple of weeks ago for a tackle he made on Alan St. Maximum, in which he didn't even make contact with, or a fraction of time of what they've spent on red cards that Everton have been given in the past, or any other decision, they'd have seen within 10 seconds that it was a penalty. Mike, you can't stay on your feet when someone stands on your foot and pushes you with two arms in the back when you're running at that pace, mate. You try it. You try running at as fast as you can and let someone stand on your foot and put two arms in your back and push you, and see if you can stay on your feet, lad. It just, again, and people will say, oh, stop whining, stop whinging, you just still lost the game, you still conceded two. That's two situations there. Liverpool go down to 10 men, we get a penalty, and let's say score it in the opening 20 minutes of the second half, 15 minutes of the second half. We're 1-0 up. We're throwing everyone behind the ball, defending everything. They've got 10 men. Now, yes, Klopp had made his changes and they'd have stepped it on the gas and they may still would have won that game. But the fact that we didn't even get the opportunity to go ahead when it was absolutely a blatant penalty is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. And as I said, Anthony does need to cut out the falling over. He does need to cut out the throwing himself on the floor, but that isn't a reason as to why that penalty wasn't given. Had Anthony have not dived in the first half, that penalty still wouldn't have been given, because that's just how it works at Anfield, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's as clear as day. As clear as day. Forget Atwell for a second. Atwell is shit himself. He shit himself because of the crowd. He shit himself because of the atmosphere. He shit himself because he should never have been refereeing that game of football. Never have been refereeing that game of football. He absolutely shit himself. But forget him for a second. How haven't the VAR taken an in-depth look at that? How have VAR been happy with that decision? What's the point in VAR if that isn't going to get looked at or checked? What's the point? They checked one yesterday for about a minute in the Palace-Leeds game when Conor Gallagher kicked his own foot and went down, and they checked it for about a minute. I just don't get it. I really, really, really don't get it. And if I'm being honest, I haven't got the energy to sit here and scream and shout and moan and whinge about it because, ultimately, I'm done with this game now. It's over, and I'm just looking at Chelsea. I'm like that with every game now, regardless of what happens in them. As soon as they're over, I'm like, right, forget it, on to the next one, because that's the situation that we're in at the moment. But again, that's twice now. Twice we've played the two teams in the title race, and twice we've had decisions go against us that you just look at and you just think that is just absolutely nonsense. There's not even a conceivable explanation. There's nothing that anybody could say to convince me that it's not a handball in the City game and that isn't a penalty. Nothing. 2 penalties, blatant penalties we should have had that haven't been given because VAR has not wanted to give them because they've not wanted to jeopardise the title race. Frankly, we didn't get any dodgy decisions from VAR last year. If you still want to go on about the Van Dijk situation, then it's been literally about 7 years. But the Van Dijk situation was a foul by Jordan Pickford. It was an accident. And you can sit here all you like and tell me, where's this energy? That's sound. Why isn't the Anthony Gordon penalty in the back page of every newspaper? Why haven't I seen it in the back page why haven't I seen the top journalists in the country tweeting about it non-stop? Because that's what he did with Van Dijk for fucking 18 months. You've had a book of condolences for him, for fuck's sake. I just... Again, I just don't... I don't get it. I don't get it. It's... You can sit here and tell me all you like about it not being corrupt and the league being fair and this, that and the other, but you'll never be able to convince me that is fair. And that decision was made without something ultimately funding that decision. I.e., oh shit, there's a title race here, or oh shit, there's something else going on here. Because it's a penalty. It's a blatant penalty all day long. Blatant penalty. But anyway, we don't get given it. We get up, we go again. As I said, Anthony has another chance. He gets one-on-one with Alisson this time. Puts it out. Cheers, Richie. I appreciate it. Puts it out and it goes to a goal kick. And then you could start to see Liverpool started to put the foot on it. Then, obviously, Klopp made the changes. And I think ultimately the changes changed the game, to be fair, especially Luis Diaz coming on. He just gave them an injection of pace. He gave Seamus Coleman something else to think about, something else to worry about. I think the forward line had gotten very frustrated and very bored of being unable to break Everton's defence down. And that introduction of Luis Diaz, I think, gave them an extra gear, and ultimately he was on there to try and impress and to try and win the game, and that's what he did. And as I said, we made the change. We brought Dele Alli on, who again was trying to make stuff happen, trying to feed the ball, had a couple of half chances himself. We were still getting half opportunities, we just weren't making the most of them. We just didn't have the quality to make them count. And then the first goal comes, and you look at the goals we conceded as well, and you just think how poor goals to concede. We're playing one of the best teams in the country, and we've conceded goals that you just scratch your head and think how. And it was 2 defensive lapses of concentration. I think Salah puts a ball in, can't remember who it is, thinks it over. Robertson's completely stood on his own. Damari Gray doesn't track his man, I think. Seamus Coleman's left him. Robertson puts it 1-0, and as soon as it went 1-0, you sort of thought, yeah, this is going to be, Liverpool were either going to then go for the throat or sit back and think, right, we'll see this out. But they didn't. They do what Liverpool do. They went for the throat. We again were trying our hardest to get forward. It became increasingly more difficult because obviously they'd stepped it up a level. and then obviously the ball comes in the box. They get the second goal again. Mason Holgate is stood in ours side with his defensive line. Ball's bouncing around. Origi heads it in, and it's 2-0. And ultimately that's how the game finished. And as I said, it's incredibly disappointing because we lost a game in which, for me, I thought we done very well in, considering how we set up and what we set up to do. I think we done it well for the best part of an hour. As I said, I thought Anthony Gordon was absolutely fantastic against one of the best teams in the world. Vitaly Mykolenko was fantastic against one of the best forwards in the world. I thought the defence kept themselves strong. Jordan Pickford done well when he was called into action, although he wasn't called into action much. Richarlison worked hard. Iwobi done well. And yet we've lost it because of a lack of quality going forward, ultimately. Had we have had a bit more quality in the forward line, we could have taken a couple of those chances. And, you know... we might have been a different story. 2 defensive lapses of concentration, which ultimately I think come from Everton players being frustrated that they weren't given the decisions they should have been given, and also again Liverpool making those changes and our defence just, let's be honest, not being good enough to be able to adjust to cope with that. You know, I think Mason Holgate, it's enough of a task asking Mason Holgate to defend against Diego Jota and Sadio Mane, and then when you ultimately bring Luis Diaz into the equation, I think his head just completely fell off. And yeah, I think as soon as it went 1-0, it was sort of just like it was one of them then, wasn't it? I think everybody knew, right, this is done. And it's disappointing because, you know, look, again, it's difficult to sit here and say we deserved more out the game because of the lack of possession and, you know, the fact that Liverpool had all the ball and stuff like that. But I do think we deserved more out the game. I think the way we managed the game, I think the chances we had, I think the fact that we had a better XG at the end of the first half, I think the fact we should have had a penalty, I think we deserved more than we got out the game. And ultimately, as I said, the players and the manager have got to take confidence from this now and got to be able to take some form of motivation and find some form of momentum going into Chelsea at the weekend, because Chelsea at the weekend is an absolute must-win. We can't afford to not win that game of football. It'll be difficult, of course it will, but we can't afford to not win that game of football. And then we've got 4 or 5 games that we just can't simply not lose. Simply not lose any of them. You know, whether we'll be okay or not is a different question. Leeds done okay yesterday to pick up a point, but their fixtures are tough. Burnley on a run at the moment, which has come from nowhere. I'm really, really worried, but at the end of the day, this one's gone and we never expected anything out of this, and I don't even think we expected to perform as well as we did, and I think that's why there's a lot more disappointment about this one. Otherwise, this review would have just typically, if this game would have gone how most of us thought it would have gone, this review would have been about 5 minutes longer. They sat here and said, yeah, we got battered, we knew it was happening, move on. But it was because of, it was many a times in that game you look and go, there's a chance here, there's a chance here, and it come of nothing. But now we've got to put it behind us and we've simply got to focus on Sunday, which is the big one, and Sunday's got to be a win. It's as simple as that. There's no other outcome for me. Can we win it? Absolutely. Will we win it? We'll see. But the team have got to give the desire, the commitment, and the passion that they did on Sunday. Because if not, it'll be a struggle. But yeah, there you go. Look, we are going to finish it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. Big thanks to everybody for watching live. Really, really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. We are going to try and do another stream before we do the preview. The preview to the Chelsea game will be on Friday. Hopefully we'll do another one either tomorrow or Thursday. I've got a graduation tomorrow, so I'm not too sure about tomorrow, but we'll have another one before then anyway. But yeah, all I can say about this one is let's just put it behind us, forget about it, and ultimately move on to Sunday now, which is the next game, and therefore the most important. Last Sunday is irrelevant now. It's done. It's over with, and we move on. But anyway, big thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a massive amount to me. Yeah, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below if you watched the YouTube video. And yeah, up the toffees. We move on, we move forward. Cheers, Semi, appreciate it. Says thanks, Cam, take care, everyone. Nice one, my mate Eugene, says see about the toffees. Cheers, Eugene. Cheers, Wonderlust. Nice one, Mike, appreciate it. But yeah, let's wait and see. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.